You had been.
Colleagues, Dr. Golden, we're going to make a start. Dr. Golden. Dr. Golden, we're going to make a start.
Professor Pritchard.
Thank you all very much for coming. Welcome to Metrolinx. We're in session. There's a ton of stuff going on, a remarkable amount of stuff going on, Phil, but I'm not going to take time to recount all the things we're working on. Instead, I'm going to turn to you and ask you to make your remarks.
Thank you very much to the Chair. I would just like to ask that we start this board meeting with a moment of silence in recognition of the victims of Monday's horrific attack in the north of York, please. Our thoughts are with the victims and their families at this most difficult time. In response to the incident, we kept our offices and areas closed on Tuesday, and we have made trauma counselors available to our employees. Thankfully, none of our staff or contractors were affected or injured by this incident. We have kept close communication with the Toronto Police, the RCMP, the TTC, public safety agencies, and we are maintaining a heightened sense of vigilance and urgency across our network as well. These are tragic instances, and it's very important for us all as a community to consider how we react to these. But in the face of this tragedy, we would also like to acknowledge and recognize some people who have helped us in other circumstances that have the potential to become very tragic. And I'd like to share some of these with you today, and we have some of these people present in the room. We'd like to show our appreciation for what they have done. And so there's a great thing that we've had a great event, a great action by Aaron Sousa Pillay. Aaron, can you stand? Can you come forward, please? So Aaron, on April the 2nd, was on his regular trip from Pickering to Ryerson University, and as a 20-year-old GO passenger, Aaron, on the approach to Scarborough GO station, noticed a visibly distraught man on the railing of one of our bridges above St. Clair Avenue East, just steps from the station. So Aaron felt compelled to act. He jumped off the train, carefully approached the man and engaged him in conversation. So at the time, the individual was saying, "Please just leave me alone. Please, I want to do something else." Aaron started to talk to him, engaged him, and actually held on to him before he could jump off the bridge. And at the time, transit safety officers and police arrived at the scene. And Aaron, for a point in time there, was the critical individual, the critical factor between that individual taking his own life and being saved. So Aaron, as a small gesture, I've asked Anne Golden from our board to just give you a small gesture and say thank you very much.
Do you want to say a word, Aaron?
Can I get a shot of that?
Aaron, would you like to say a few words? Just from where you are.
You know what? I've been really overwhelmed by this because it's not something I could picture myself doing. I'm not sure how I did it, right? I feel like I wasn't in my body at that point, and it really hit me until, it hit me after I put my jacket back on. I realized, what I did at that point, and I was overwhelmed with emotion. And I feel like, it's in all of us, even if we feel like it's not, it's something that we should do in a situation like that, or any situation that's similar to that. We should try our best to do the best, you know what I mean? That's all I can say.
Good for you.
Thank you and congratulations. Phil, back to you.
Thanks, Aaron. Earlier this month, an 80-year-old man suffered a heart event and collapsed on the Up Express. Our guest service representative, Lemonton Sardroot, immediately notified the Go Transit Control Center and began life-saving CPR efforts using a defibrillator. 4 of our transit safety officers, Michael Scholes, Michael Olson, Michael Song, and Faith Killick. Now, Faith, Fatih Killick, sorry. Fatih, I just want to check. You sure your name's not also Michael? Because all of the other 3 members are Michael, so Fatih as well. Arrived quickly and began CPR compressions. The collective efforts of the staff were able to revive the man's breathing and pulse. Fire services and EMS were next on the scene and took the victim into their care, and we have since learned that the man in question is recovering from the incident. Another example of just the fantastic efforts and quick response of our teams that can save lives. And on this case, I'd like to ask Kathy Bordswick from our team to hand over just small gestures of our appreciation to the members. Could you guys come forward, please, everyone?
To help me out here. I've got names, but I don't know which Michael is which.
I'm the non-Michael.
You're a non-Michael? 2 non-Michaels here, so wait a second.
That'll be for Lemontin as well as for Fatih.
So make sure I'm giving the right. Congratulations. Thank you very much. All right, you're a Michael. Which Michael are you?
Song.
This one right here. Congratulations. Yes. Another Michael? Make sure now, eh? If I get it wrong, just exchange them. And this looks like another Michael. Is that another Michael? It's another Michael. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. And I know which one this one goes.
Thank you very much, everyone. I also want to recognize 2 of our construction team members from Crosslinks Transit Solutions working on the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. And we're going to show you a little video clip after I've read to you what happened in this case. But on August the 1st of 2017, Matthew Azevedo potentially saved the life of a small boy at one of the pedestrian crossings near our Fairbanks Station construction site. He noticed the boy running straight for the crosswalk into the path of an oncoming car. And so, although the young boy and his family had the walk signal, a vehicle traveling northbound on Dufferin Street was going to continue through the red light. Mr. Azevedo acted quickly to get the boy's attention and stop him from entering the road, avoiding what could have been a tragic incident. This is just so impactful for us in terms of these construction sites and activities we have right in the middle of city centres. And then also at Forest Hill Station, Fulvio Morales also helped to prevent a young boy from a vehicle accident. On March the 23rd of this year, Mr. Morales reacted quickly to stop a boy about to step into traffic. Having stopped the young man from stepping into the roadway, Mr. Morales directed him to the sidewalk and the designated crosswalk area. And I would like to thank these 2 employees who are members of our construction partners for what they've done. And if they could come forward, please. And then if we could have the video clip running quickly, please. Just give a sense. Have a look. Just, could we run that again, just to show? You can see from the top left, intervening with a boy.
Oh, wow, yes.
Yikes.
So if I could ask Brian Davies to just hand over a small gesture of our appreciation. Thanks, Brian.
Matthew? I'll start with Matthew. Thank you very much for your efforts.
full view. And thank you as well to the rest of the team from CTS for being here. And just to express to you as a leadership team, your focus on safety is something we've noticed in all of our visits to site, and we commend you and keep it up, and let's spread the message about how valuable events such as this is for us, as our responsibility is to that community. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Keep going.
Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge one of our own employees for commitment and quick action. Sunday evening, April 15th, you'll remember that's the weekend when we had really, really bad weather. Chris Knowles, who I've now lovingly started calling Chris the tree cutter. So Chris is shaking his head. Chris is our manager of track infrastructure, and he received a call that a large tree had fallen on CN tracks due to the extreme winter weather. And working through the night, Chris endeavored to secure a team for its safe removal. Concerned that the downed tree could prevent us from running Richmond Hill GO train service early on the Monday morning, Chris went to the site, even though he was not on call, it was not his duty, at 3 o'clock in the morning with his own chainsaw, his own chains and various hand tools to support the removal of the large tree. Working very closely with our contractor, PNR, the team safely removed the very large tree, which was completely blocking the track needed for service. So this type of behavior is just the type of thing that reflects the passion that people in transit have for the services we deliver every day. And considering the impact of an event such as that, and taking due care and doing it safely, removing a hazard for our service is just another example of the type of behaviors that we treasure in this organization. And I'd like to ask the chair if he could hand over a small gift to Chris.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Great work.
So a special thank you to all our staff, our contractors and customers who truly live our values and bring our values to life. That's fantastic. So lastly, I just want to, we have a few of these which we'll hand out in electronic format as well, just as a congratulation to our team in our marketing division, whose initiative to publish this Go Transit Etiquette book is a tongue-in-cheek official sort of unofficial unofficial handbook for transit users, has been awarded a prestigious Design and Art Direction DAD award, which is a United Kingdom British award for written graphic design, and a great example in the written graphic design excellence strategy. So just congratulations to that team.
Can we hand those out?
Yeah, we will. We have a bundle here to hand out, and we'll send these around, and there's a number available for the audience as well.
How do transit users get them? Are they,
Online too.
It's online as well.
It's online as well.
Very good. Good to go.
Great. Thank you very much. We're up next to Metrolinx in the marketplace. Judy Pfeiffer, Mary Prock. Thank you all very much. Those of you that visited, you're welcome to stay, of course. It's pretty exciting. I notice you're walking out anyway, but. Thanks again.
So, Board Chair, Mary and I would like to turn it over to Devon and Jamie to walk you through the annual tracking surveys we do about Metrolinx, the marketplace.
Hello. My name is Devon Cushel, and I'm the manager of market research. Today, like Judy said, we'll be
Give
talking.
us a minute on your background.
Sure. So I'm.
I don't think you've ever spoken to the board before, have you?
No, this would be my first time.
Well, give us 1 minute about who you are.
Sure. So I've been at Metrolinx for about 5.5 years now. I started out in the Go customer care side, working on market research at the same time. Voice of the customer has been something that we've been bringing through for the last several years at Metrolinx, and we've all been quite passionate about. And now, as part of the marketing division, market research is its own office, and we're leading that through to sort of bring those insights to the entire organization and bring them to you as well as to the public.
Thank you very much, Devon.
So, like Judy said, today we're talking about the annual Metrolinx in the Marketplace survey. We conduct this work every year, and we thought this was a good opportunity to bring forward what the public says about Metrolinx. Really what this is a resident survey to see what those perceptions are, to see what people think about our projects, our plans, and all of our work. So the first area that we'll talk about is these larger Metrolinx perceptions. And so what that is familiarity with Metrolinx and support for our plans. So I'm actually just going to go straight to the slides there, but on the bottom left of that slide there, you'll see familiarity with Metrolinx. That's sitting right now at 56%. So what that means is 56% of our residents are familiar with what Metrolinx does and its mandate around there. We've seen that increase by about 11 points from last year. So more and more people are starting to learn what we do. And this gets into, once you start to know what we do, you can start to have impressions about us, and then you can start to ideally use our services more and more. So that's the overall, and that's the point on Metrolinx in the marketplace. We also see strong support right now for our planning projects or initiatives, which is the regional transportation plan, so that's the far right, at 91%, and our fare structure or fare integration at 81%. So the next area we'll talk about are our perceptions of the build, or all of the capital projects that we have underway. So I'll call out the first number on the left there at 52%. Those are the residents that are aware of expanded Go service in the region. That's an increase of several points. That's 17 points from last year. And this is huge. We've done so much work in the last year about making more and more residents aware of the significant investment that we're making, significant transformation that we're making in the region. So we're seeing that increase. And what we want to move towards is, as people become more aware, they can start to see the benefits of what we're doing. They can start to take those benefits personally. And then ideally, long term, they'll consider traveling with us in the future. So that's really the story that we build when we start to kind of gauge awareness and then move it down into real action at the end of the day.
Devon, can you just connect the 2 points a little bit with that slide in the previous slide,
Yeah.
where the positive impressions, feel Metrolinx is trustworthy, all have made positive movements between last year, the year before, and 2018?
Yes, absolutely. So last year, and just going back to that, last year our positive impression was at 75%, and that's up 5 points to 80% this year. And so the statements below that is a well-managed organization, is innovative, uses taxpayer dollars responsibly. All of those have shown growth from last year. And what those are statements, if we work towards those in more detail, if we drive perceptions on those, our overall positive impression will increase as well. Same thing for trustworthy, which has increased from 73% in 2017 to 83% this year. So I will just turn over to Jamie, who is much more expert at the LRT side.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jamie Robinson, Director of Community Relations and Communications for the Rapid Transit Projects for Metrolinx.
Have you spoken here before, Jamie?
I've had the pleasure of that.
That's what I thought,
Chair.
so no
Yeah.
need to do that.
No, thank you.
You're well known to
I'm
this
happy
group.
to continue on. So to inform our community relations and communications activities for the LRT projects, we needed to gain a deeper understanding of current awareness and support for those projects, for the Eglinton Crosstown, the Ontario LRT, Hamilton LRT, and the Finch West LRT. So you can see the numbers that are up there that reflect that. And we sort of looked at that, not really surprising, certainly looking at each of the projects and where they are at vis-a-vis in their current stage of construction or procurement. One thing I would draw attention to the board is that this work was done back from November 1 to November 30th, 2017, and that just was done a little bit in advance of a significant marketing campaign we initiated for here Ontario, Hamilton, and Finch West projects, where we put in significant marketing efforts through print, digital, and social media. That yielded exceptional results in each of those projects. So we anticipate that when we go out and do a further survey and dig a little bit deeper later this year, that those numbers in fact will increase. Thank you.
And that's the last bit is around our service brands. And so as we go to the next one there, really good, strong awareness of our brands. They operate, it makes sense in that sense. Awareness of our connection with Metrolinx. There's strong perception amongst residents around offering excellent customer service. The only area of opportunity there would be PRESTO as it continues to roll out. We still need to see that growth and as it rolls out on one of the bigger areas, which is Toronto. To that point, though, likelihood to use for Go, PRESTO, and Up is continuing to trend up across the year. So that's more and more residents saying, yes, I think I would use this service. Likelihood to recommend shows a similar trend where more and more residents just sort of see, yes, I would recommend this service to those that I think might use it. Yeah. And the last bit there is just around our next steps. And so really, this works both as sort of our benchmark so that we can guide and validate that we're on the right track, but it also informs our future work. What we're going to be doing is continue to informing communities about this work. We're seeing the sort of benefits of really getting into local targeted communications, and that's where we want to continue as we go forward. That's also building awareness and support for future consideration of LRT projects and thinking ahead to the ridership goals. And building on the momentum that we've already seen in this last year and getting into more specific localized work in print, digital, and social media communications. That Eglinton Crosstown signage on the right is a great example of really showing the people that are walking each day about the work that we're doing. And then finally, we do want to increase transparency, build those elements of trust by continuing things like our Ask Metrolinx or even just bringing results like this to the table.
Thank you very much, Devon. Thanks, Jamie.
Yes.
Just very quickly.
Kathy and then Upcar.
Very quickly, just a little bit of feedback, and because I'll forget to tell you, the Ask Metrolinx this morning, coming in on the Burlington line, as we were coming into Union, the operator, the announcer, actually referenced Ask Metrolinx.
For Monday night.
And there was this really positive little hub. You know how people stand up and are kind of together? And I thought, good, this is great. And there was this buzz about, oh, that's kind of interesting, you know, maybe we'll join. So very good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Upcar.
Chair, I was just going to say I found the results to be remarkable in terms of the level of improvement in a relatively short period of time, especially when it goes to building awareness and building brand attributes. To see this kind of change, not just in one category, but across virtually all categories, to be quite spectacular. And so I think congratulations to your team and the general team for such tremendous progress on those fronts. If I could just ask one question, the one that did stick out was Finch West LRT. Perhaps give us some color as to why the ratings on Finch West LRT as it relates to personal benefits and likelihood to consider traveling do not follow the same pattern or are not the same levels as some of the other projects.
So why don't I start off on that? And so I think that we looked at the awareness on Finch as being quite a bit lower than the other LRT projects to begin with. And I think that really where that stems from largely, Upcar, is that the issue of how long we've been in procurement for that particular project. So we had done a significant amount of engagement leading up to getting into request for proposal stage and working to find our consortium, which was identified as preferred proponent last week. But during that whole period of time when we had issues with Bombardier, we were really, during that in-market period, you stop a lot of the engagement activities. And so that had sort of shut down for a period of time, and so we're really just ramping that up. So I've got a terrific team in place now, and so I'd say that since January, we've done something about 40 events in the community along Finch West to really sort of build that awareness and support. So that's how I would look at the overall issue on Finch. And I think that that's sort of transcends out there, because I think that what we find in a lot of these is people don't really know that the project is real and it's coming. But when we find out, we begin to engage through events at hospitals and through the marketing campaign that I talked about. I think that particularly for Finch, those numbers are going to go way up.
If I can, I'll just ask a quick follow-up question. Devon, we've tried a number of different strategies, obviously, of engagement and marketing communication. Are we developing a learning mentality to figure out what's more effective? Where do we get better expenditure and return for the dollars we spend to make sure we're being really focused on how to build awareness with a very fiscal-oriented responsibility?
Yes, absolutely. And I won't speak to the projects. I think there's others that can speak to that. But I think what we're trying to do from a research point of view or a data point of view is really narrow in on those things that will lead to that benefit. And so we're not sort of wasting time building on a metric that doesn't get us some sort of payoff at the end of the day. And so if we focus in on those things and know that story around getting towards ridership, that's the ultimate sort of revenue and fiscal protection that we can build in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Janet?
Yeah, because there's been some, it's really cool progress on this going forward. So what do we think has contributed to that? Is it just the payoff of continual focus? Is it some new things that you've been doing? Is it just, I don't know, we're being regarded differently in the media these days or something? Or
I would say it speaks to the benefit of an integrated campaign, whereby we are doing very specific marketing along those corridors, but they're being buttressed by Jamie's community events. And we're also using social media at the same time. And so the integration of all of those channels, I believe, is leading to this lift.
are we going to get to the level, because some businesses will say if we spend $1 in advertising, we know we get X dollars back in sales. Are we going to be at the point where we say $1 in whatever community engagement or whatever, it produces X increase in ridership and therefore more revenue?
Yes, and this year we are beginning to measure all of our return on marketing investment dollars to try and achieve a 3-to-1. But just as an example, the hoarding that we put up is going to yield a quantum increase. If we had tried to buy that advertising, it's something like a 200-to-1 return on investment. So we want to be using finding the most efficient use of our dollars, and Devon and her research team are going to try and continue to help us to find that.
And it's a step change, Janet, very definitely, is this year to set a 3-to-1 ratio of recovery, and we've set it across the board, and all of the marketing behaviors and initiatives have been recalibrated to get to focus on a return on investment on every marketing dollar. So it's exactly where we were going.
Yeah, because it's, one of the things people love to dump on organizations like Metrolinx is why are we, quote, wasting money on advertising and that kind of thing. So having that kind of direct link will be a really helpful communication message going forward. Very, very good.
I have Rahul and then Marianne.
Sure. I think it's probably for Jamie. My question relates to Hamilton LRT. What's the story behind the relatively low local support?
I think that's entirely
Go to Hamilton and ask.
I think it's entirely attributed to the significant public debate we've had within the community over the last couple of years. It's been very contentious before council, lots of divisive council support, and that's really been reflected out there in the community. I think that's really what we've seen in the research.
Jamie, give the board a sense of the Rexdale Community Centre meeting that was there last week, which was so popular in that part.
Okay, so that's back to the Finch project, and I think that it was what I was when I was responding to Upcar's question, and so that what we find is that with the team is out there engaging with folks is that there's a tremendous interest of what we're doing and support of what we're doing. And so when you can go out to talk to people and the community see that, folks see that, my team sees this all the time, so that when they can talk to, for example, folks at a community center who are there getting various services in the community, and how they can learn about this project coming down the road, that they can actually get on the Finch West LRT, one higher order of transit, to take it to another new higher order of transit, which is the subway that's just opened up, to get to a job downtown Toronto. So they don't have to stay within their community at Jane Fincher and Rexdale and stuff like that. When you look at their eyes and see it, how tremendously supportive of how this is really going to change their lives. Those are the sort of stories that we're picking up all the time, that we're turning around and reflecting through our social media efforts and stuff like that. So that's, I think, important. Thanks for raising that, Phil.
Rojo, you're done?
Didn't really get an answer, though, other than contentious over there. I'm more curious, what are we doing to mitigate that then?
Oh, so again, I think that so we continue to ramp up our engagement activities. We've got more boots on the ground now. We're opening up 2 community offices this year, both at the east and the west end part of the line. That whole marketing campaign that I identified that we launched in late in December, that extended through to March, that was through different platforms and the like, through social media, through print advertising, through billboard advertising. Those are the sort of multi-channels that we're using to engage people on a consistent and ongoing basis. All of which is working significantly with our municipal partner. The mayor and the other elected officials are supportive of what we're doing, and they were the ones that we worked hard and closely with in terms of the messaging and the platforms that we utilized to continue to build awareness and support for the project.
Marianne, you have the last word.
Well, I'm interested, as kind of a question to any of you, just in how the new Metrolinx branding, so you have up at Eglinton Crosstown, we have Metrolinx building new TTC, we have Metrolinx doing this, and whether, that strong Metrolinx brand is becoming what I call legible to people in terms of providing transit, whether it's GO, whether it's up, whether it's TTC ultimately, whether we all, I'm looking for the great communing of all of these services under a brand. And whether people who didn't understand Metrolinx now say, "Oh, are you asking that question?" And whether this strong visual identity, which has only emerged in the last couple of years, is becoming legible.
Yeah. So I'll speak to the awareness of the connection. So we are seeing a growth relative to last year. We are seeing more people aware of the support and sort of the network of the way the brands work. I can't speak to this research. I don't think captured really the visual identity aspect. I do think that we want to do more work on making those connections and seeing how that impact rolls together, and ensuring that our brand visualization is communicating the things that we want it to, and is allowing people to understand the brand and what we do. I think we were in a position for a while where we just had to explain to people what we did, and now we're in a position where we can start to understand how we can show people what we do, and those brand associations can build from there. So not in this study, but I think it's something that we want to do more of now that we're kind of over the hump of some of that awareness and some of that familiarity.
Kind of follow-up would be the linkage of this to wayfinding.
Exactly.
We're lucky that the universal wayfinding system is actually white on black, so that all of, I think, selecting of, rather than a color that's, might fight with gray, with green, GO green, or TTC red, just how we simplify and neutralize and kind of make those visual connections for people. Yeah. I believe people are visually literate, and we need to give them a higher component of visualization so they can make those connections.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes that item, but Jamie, you're standing right where you are, I think. Is that right?
I'm not moving.
And we're running behind, and you were so good on the first item, we're going to give you a little less time on the next. And you got colleagues joining you. Who's leading, Judy?
No, I'm not leading. I'm going to just set the stage. The amount of public engagement, community relations, EA approvals, community meetings are in the thousands every quarter.
And what we wanted to do was to turn it over to the team, who will give you some case studies of the type of work that we're doing that you may not necessarily know about, and most of it you never read about. So Jamie, I will have them each introduce themselves as they speak.
Jamie, we know who you are. Kelly, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kelly Hagan. I'm the Acting Director for Communications and Community Relations for the Go Expansion RER program. I've been at Metrolinx for 2 years now and I'm supporting the team in the work that we do to build awareness for the Go Expansion program with elected officials, stakeholders, and residents on the ground.
Great, and you do to Go Expansion what Jamie does
Correct.
to Rapid Transit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. And where were you before you came to Metro?
Before, I had the pleasure of working at the Toronto District School Board. So my career has been in the communications and public relations sector for the last 12 to 15 years.
That's great, Kelly. Are you a graduate of the University of Toronto?
I actually went to I'm a proud alma mater of Wilfrid Laurier University.
Very good. Very good, very good, very good. And Rajesh, you've spoken here before, I think.
Director of Stakeholder Relations. Thanks for having me back. I don't have a name tag. I'm Anthony Irving. I'm a manager of community relations with Go Expansion. I'm also a U of T alumni. In fact, at convocation, you handed me my diploma.
Very nice, very, very nice. My confidence in this division has just risen sharply.
So I know that these slides have been sent in advance. I'm just going to jump ahead. Judy gave a context right there. So in terms of the project cycle and our community engagement, wanted to put first and foremost out there that engagement doesn't just begin and end. It extends throughout all phases of our work as we plan and build and operate. And it also extends across all our lines of business, Go, Presto, Go Expansion, Union, Pearson Express, etc. This slide here indicates that we have got a number of tools in our engagement toolbox, some of which are traditional, some of which are new, and some of which are innovative. And depending on the engagement opportunity, excuse me, we may employ or utilize any number of these tools and products that are listed here. I'm going to talk, wanted to get into a couple of case studies here, and I just sort of say that overall from a rapid transit perspective, I'll give you a couple of numbers. So on the Crosstown in 2017, we did 185 community meetings. And during that same year, we've got about just over 2,000 distinct cases that we work through from a community relations perspective. And I sort of observed that of these 2,000, most of these folks that are engaging with us aren't people that are tremendously supportive of the project at this particular point in time and the impact that we're having on their communities. And so that's an observation of how we're working with folks on a community basis. Over at the left, you see the Kodak building. So that's the iconic image in the Mount Dennis community. Early on, the Mount Dennis community said that when Metrolinx had bought the site and began to take down all the Kodak buildings, they wanted that building maintained and preserved to be part of the future Mount Dennis station. So it's part of the secondary entrance for the Mount Dennis station. You can also see that photograph was taken when the building had to be moved. It had to be moved through an innovative engineering technique about 60 meters north to allow you the constructor to put all the apparatus and underneath for the secondary entrance. And so when as part of the engagement activity, we held a community barbecue, and it was a hot summer day, and we had about 400 people that came out to watch this building be moved. So again, tremendous support within the Mount Dennis community. The next in the center is the battery energy storage system. So when the Crosslinx Transit Solutions was awarded the contract, one of the interesting and innovative things that they had proposed was a natural gas-fired energy facility to provide electricity in the event of a power outage along the Crosstown. That was not strongly supported. In fact, it was quite violently opposed by the community, and because it was natural gas. And so working extensively with the local community and other stakeholders, particularly Toronto Hydro electricity system and others, we came up with an innovative solution, was to come up with a battery energy storage system which provided the same attributes as the natural gas, but much more welcome in the community, such that when we announced it, the community put us forward and nominated us for an environmental award with a significant environmental organization. We didn't win, but it was again a testament of how well we had worked with the community on this particular project. And for Chair Pritchard, I put the third one in, which is Aaron Mills, and you'll recall about 2 years ago that this isn't you in the photograph. I didn't include you there. But in fact, I think you weren't moving too well that day. I think you had a broken foot. But this was an example of an engagement at Erin Mill Station, but perhaps we didn't do particularly well at. And the team who had done the sort of environmental assessment, I think that it's fair to say that took not as much engagement, input, feedback from the local community as a testament that they were supportive of what was taking place. That was until they actually saw the buildings be erected, the roads and the noise and everything associated with that, the Erin Mill Station. But I think we've done a very good job bringing this back, and the community is really supportive of how we've stepped up and addressed their issues and concerns. You've always got a couple of people that you'll never get on side, but I think that the most important thing is that it hasn't had a significant public issue for us for about 2 years now, Chair. So that's constructive. Finally, I'll talk about Community Connectors. This is a program that we've got that began in Hamilton, working in partnership with the City of Hamilton. It's where we engage 20 sort of typically younger folks who can go out there and really just out there to sort of find out about people, what their interests and concerns are about the project. And we use that again to inform all our activities and from a communications and community relations perspective. And the important thing as well, that's got the added benefit that you're employing younger kids that and you're paying them a living wage. We extended that program that we began in Hamilton, extended to here in Ontario. And the most important thing there is that our community connectors, of which there's 15, speak 9 different languages. So the ability for the community connectors to connect with the people in a very diverse community in Mississauga and Brampton is tremendous. And so that program has worked very, very well. Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So for the Go Expansion program over the last 3 years, our focus on engagement has been on that EA stage of work. Critical environmental assessments have needed to take place for the infrastructure needed to expand service on Stouffville, Barrie, Lakeshore East, and then, of course, the network-wide electrification program. So through hundreds of elected official engagements, public meetings, and direct resident connections, those very key environmental assessments did reach notice to proceed stage with no conditions, which is a true testament to the work that the team does on the ground and behind the scenes to get those off the ground. Our work on these environmental assessments will continue as further environmental assessment work is needed, but it doesn't stop there. We're in the process of creating community advisory committees that will work through the design and procurement phases of the projects that we have undergo. You know, one of the example of that type of engagement that we do is the process that we've taken through the Davenport Diamond project. And Anthony Irvine is here as the manager on that file to use that example to walk you through some of the ways that we're engaging on the ground.
Can I just suggest, Kelly, before we step off onto that, we have tried in different ways to make that slide 7 more impactful, to actually say how much Kelly and the team has actually achieved to get so many EAs through a process without pushback, and with the comments and consultations with communities, how that has been managed. And I still don't think we do justice to it, Kelly, but to Kelly and her team, it's a fantastic achievement, and the whole communications team that are involved in that. That slide doesn't do it yet, but we can just...
I'm happy to keep taking a second crack at that one, because I'm proud of that work too.
Focus the board on the fantastic work that underpins that.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Anthony?
Thank you. I think maybe we're just a little too modest. The story of the Davenport Diamond project illustrates how community engagement is critical to the success of capital infrastructure work that we do. There was in Davenport a history in which the original EA was not able to be launched and was canceled. Our challenge was to find ways to overcome concerns and uncertainty in the community, and that's understandable. A large infrastructure project followed by a service increase can be unsettling. So what did we do? And our community process was that we struck a resident reference panel back in May 2015, which created the terms of reference and laid the foundation for our approach with the community. By the summer of 2016, we formed a community advisory committee, which was made up of local residents, elected officials, and an integrated Metrolinx team, which included communications, our capital projects group, and our design excellence group. The CAC was tasked with providing Metrolinx with input on early design plans so that eventually the finished design would incorporate ideas right from the community. And so the design became as much the community's as it was Metrolinx's design. We had 5 meetings between July 2016 and November 2017, including a field trip to existing rail over road structures in the GO network. And this past March, we had our final public meeting with local stakeholders who were generally pleased with the work that we all did together. And this positive feedback was echoed in 2 positive media stories in the Globe and Mail and in a Metroland paper. And Davenport is becoming the community model we use internally, but it's not something we can do alone, and we have to work closely with the community and stakeholders and hear their concerns and respond accordingly and accommodate where we can. And that's the only way to set us up for success in the communities we work in. But what did we learn? Well, we needed to have more information out earlier. We needed to have more direct, clear information on what to expect in the process, what the community would expect in the process. And we needed to retool our internal teams to work better together to address the community needs. And we must always lead with our best foot forward, especially in the early stages of a project, to set the tone and establish trust and rapport in the community over the length of the project. I'll just hand this over to Raj.
Thanks, Anthony.
Dr. Golden wanted to make a comment.
Yes, it does speak to the value of engagement, but I hope I'm not overstating this, I feel it speaks to the value and importance of the board contribution, because this issue was one of the first that faced us when I joined the board back at that time. And it was very controversial. I remember in the packet, the letter from the residents were quite angry. And Judy, we talked about it then and how to, the need, what the initial plan wasn't to get as engaged as we ultimately did. I also want to comment that we also at that point pushed to have design, the design element brought into the discussion early on so people could actually get a picture. I remember the picture of the original thing. I would have voted against it too because it looked like a wall. And then when it came out with the glass and the whole thing, it looked so nice. And so I want to thank you for picking up. First of all, I think it does speak to the role of the board, but I think it speaks to the teamwork between the board and staff. You were very respectful to our pushback, went with it, and now this has been become the model for engagement for all of these issues, and I honestly think it really is great.
Marianne?
So a very quick follow-up, just because, you know, that's all we see. It would be great if there were appendices where you could send us what you have put together as a summation of what actually happened here, because it is quite different from the original, and there were plans and so on, just because we're trying to stress the importance of what is built in the end, what we build. And so the board, I think, would like to see ultimately where we're going and what is built. And these are a little bit inscrutable and no captions, and, you know, I wouldn't know if I'm supposed to vote for it or not.
Right. We can do a case study, sort of a case
Yeah,
study.
I think we should, and anything that we accomplish, and then, you know, set it up.
Very good, that's
Yeah,
great.
that'd
We
be
can
great.
do that.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you both for your comments. Back to you guys. We've got to sprint to the end here.
All right.
Are we at the end?
Bring us to the finish line then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our innovation and engagement activities and start by talking about citizens panels. So citizens panels or reference panels take us beyond traditional engagement. They provide residents an opportunity to weigh in on what's happening in the community and help us to deliver on our commitment around transparency, accountability, and of course, civic participation. We have convened 3 such panels so far. Anthony talked about the Davenport Community Overpass, of course, the transportation investment, and most recently the 2041 Regional Transportation Plan. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. I know we've talked about it at the board, but just a reminder that it was a 36-member panel, 7 recommendations that came forward, and they were embedded within the actual plan itself. So a true value in the work that these groups provide to our thinking. Where are we going next? We're striking up a new 2-year standing reference panel. A request for qualifications facilitate this panel closed earlier this week, and we're looking forward to the next steps, and we'll be excited to share back with you at this table the findings and how we move forward. And then finally, the second example is in an innovation engagement is a success we've seen through our digital public engagement site, and we've talked about this as well, metrolinxengage.com. The reality is that most people can't come to events due to time and geography constraints, and they still want to have their say. So we are providing a forum for them to do that. It allows for maximum participation of all stakeholders, municipalities, citizens, and customers. It can be widespread or individual targeted experiences. For individuals with varying accommodation needs, it's an opportunity for them to voice their concerns. And this investment in technology helps us scale, support macro projects and also more granular projects like community open houses. And this whole enterprise benefits from this type of strategy.
That's really neat. Really good. Really good. Any more questions to this group? You guys have done a transformational job from where we were when I got started here. Wow. We were hopeless compared to what you're now doing. Really impressed. Really impressed. Thank you. No more questions? That's great. Thank you. Congratulations. Major league improvement. That brings us to Presto Mobile. This is Annalise. You're going to lead this? You're going to show us the new era, the next age.
Well, the team will show you, actually. So I've brought in Karen as well. Oh, maybe actually.
Annalise, have you spoken to the board in public session?
I've not.
Since you became the new leader of Presto?
No.
Why don't you introduce yourself, 1.5 minute background about yourself.
You did this to me last time. So I'm Annalise Cherney. I've been with Metrolinx Presto for almost 5 years. As of February 1st, I'm the acting EVP of Presto. Previous to that, I had been running a very tiny strategy team within Presto, looking at setting our overall direction and starting to run us more like a business as opposed to where it started in a way, which was a request of the transit agencies to build a smart card fare system.
And your personal background? Education first? I know the answer to this one.
I know you know. I trained as an engineer at the University of Guelph. I did a master's in applied physics at the Université de Québec at Trois-Rivières, and I have an MBA from London Business School.
Great.
And with that, I'll introduce Tom Hounsel and Karen Allicock. They're part of the team who, Tom runs product management for Presto, and Karen is manager of business development. They've both been with the organization for several years. I'll let them introduce themselves, but before I do, we're really excited to talk about Presto Mobile. It's actually been on the roadmap since 2014. This is something that we've been working on in the background. The team, quite frankly, has been working on in the background. And we're now at a point where, although we're going to show an early demo, so I want to be cautious that we're going to do all sorts of consumer testing and technology as well. So the end version may end up looking different, but we are very excited that, I actually brought these. So this was the first Presto card, right, that we all saw. And then we went through the rebranding exercise, which is kind of the next phase of how we fit into the ecosystem of Metrolinx. And being able to use your phone to both manage your account as well as pay for transit is really that next phase we want to, that we're really excited to embark on. That said, we have lots of work to do, and so what we're going to present to you is a phased approach that we're going to start by building the account management and top-up app, which was always on the slate and we're now ready to start talking about. But that technology changes in the past couple of years have meant that we can accelerate some of the things that we had always had on the back burner much quicker than we had thought originally. And so we're at a point now where we think that the evolution of technology, but the expectations of customers not just allow us, but require us to move quicker and to build upon the infrastructure that we've built. And so, I'll hand it over to the team because they can explain it all far better than I can.
Tom, could you say a word about yourself, and then Karen,
Sure.
if you could do the same?
Yeah, I'm Tom Hounsel. I'm manager of product management at Presto. I've been there about 4 years. I have about 20 years experience in product management, and about 15 of those, the last 15, have been in payment innovations and related security technologies.
Excellent. Karen?
And my name is Karen Allicock. I'm the manager of business development. I've been at Presto for this is my 5th year. My background is primarily in operations and customer service. I was previously the manager of customer care at Go Transit. I left and then I came back to Presto about 5 years ago. And my team primarily focuses on customer experience for Presto as well as product development, which includes accessibility. So I think, Phil, you probably met Yan. He works on my team. And he does a really good job of looking at design overall and ensuring that it's accessible for everyone.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that last bit. Who does that?
His name is Jan Richards, and he is on my team as a senior advisor, and his responsibility is around accessibility for Presto and Presto devices.
Around accessibility?
Accessibility, yeah.
And so he's an industrial design background, or?
He has a background actually in, I think he has a PhD in behavioral science, but he has been on a contract with Metrolinx as a specialist around and consulting on AODA and other accessibility items. And then he was hired on about 3 years ago on my team permanently for Metrolinx.
Excellent. Now, Tom, are you making a presentation?
Yes.
Fire away.
Okay, so let me start by saying next time you're at a bus stop, if you just take a look at the people that are there, you'll probably find that most of them have a phone in their hands. And it's, it's getting more and more common. It's just right there in their hands as they're boarding the bus. And they're kind of, having a phone sets expectations. You expect that banking's going to get easier. You expect that travel's going to get easier and that shopping's going to get easier. And I think you especially expect that transit's going to get easier. So Presto Mobile is basically going to meet that expectation. It leverages the investment we've already made in Presto. This is not sort of starting fresh. This is building on what we've got. And it's going to focus on making transit easier to choose and easier to use. So we picture this as happening in 3 phases. In the first phase, we're going to be introducing Presto Mobile to help manage accounts and cards. So to increase your confidence in what is my balance today? Can I load this card right now? And Karen's going to walk you through a prototype of the app soon, so I won't go into great detail on that. Phase 2, we're talking about a virtual card, which means basically I no longer need a plastic card in my wallet. My card can be on my phone. I can tap my phone directly. And for things like knowing whether if I step back into the subway, am I going to be paying a new fare or do I have an existing transfer? Your phone will be able to tell you that directly because your card is right in your phone. And then the other thing that will be added to this is
Have to tap on and tap off.
Yeah, and I'll be demonstrating that in a
just tap
second.
with my phone instead of with my card.
Exactly. Yep. And the other aspect is journey planning and notifications. And again, this helps you both choosing travel and choosing transit and using transit. It helps you choose because it gives you the option to see, well, what are my alternatives to just getting in the car again or things like that. And it helps you use because it gives you confidence that I know the train is coming or I know the bus is coming. So now I think, Karen, it's showtime.
Okay, awesome. Over to the fun stuff. So I'm going to go through a click-through prototype with you of the account management and top-up app for Presto. So for the purposes of this demonstration, you'll notice that I'm using an iPhone, but we're going to assume that this is a NFC-capable Android device, so I can show you the full functionality. So I'm just going to...
Will it work on an iPhone as well?
It will work on an iPhone. It's just that the instant top-up feature will not be available on iPhone.
Really?
Right. Yes, NFC, No.
It will be available on an iPhone when iPhone makes that capability possible for us to deliver.
So to be clear, what we're doing is we are leapfrogging a technology position that has been there before, and we start off with an Android product, and we will go into negotiations with Apple to make that transition to see how we get iPhone to the same place.
Was BlackBerry Android?
The new BlackBerries like this one are Android.
The new ones, yeah.
Just switch to the iPhone.
Yeah. No, but we
don't get that.
It's a process, and I think
It's always slower than Android. Always.
Yeah.
And I'll say you'll still be able to perform account management functions, but the experience will be similar to on the website. So when you add value on the website, you still have to wait. There's a waiting period until you can tap and have it written to your phone.
And the purpose of this conversation is to demonstrate the prototype thinking, and so it's definitely not product ready. It's definitely not market ready for rollout. But having demonstrated the prototype, then we take our business case and our negotiations to Apple and say, this is why you need to come on board. So there's still a process that needs to happen to make this a commercial reality.
And I actually didn't tell Phil because I'm always afraid of telling him anything. But just by virtue of us doing this publicly and talking about this, Apple actually emailed yesterday asking to meet again. So, so I think there is interest, and you know, Tom can comment about what's happening globally, but we really are
pushing the envelope,
pushing and wanting to be at the forefront of our global peers, and there are a couple who are exploring in similar ways, but certainly this is an opportunity for us to step ahead.
So Karen, why don't you make the presentation before we take any more questions?
Right.
People are lining up with questions.
So I'm just going to restart the app so you can see the really nice animation that shows the cityscape.
The screen has not been on. Is it?
No, it hasn't been working for a while. We have to look.
All right.
Hey, there's a screen there, and there's one at the head of the table.
And Rob, just there's one more thing that's not in the thing is when is this going to be introduced?
Okay, let's hear the presentation, and then we'll have as many questions as there are.
Okay. So what you see here is a really clean, simple interface that customers can land on that shows them some key and critical information to be able to manage their account, and then some quick functions to be able to add value to their card, either a pass or value. At the top, you'll see on the card, you'll see the nickname, you'll see the fare type, which is adult, their current account balance. And if you have multiple accounts under your account, you can use the carousel function to swipe through the various cards that you may have under your account. You can have up to 10. Further down, you have the option to load funds. There's a quick launch menu here where you can add $10, $20, or $50 quickly, or add a specific amount. You can also see if you have add a pass, and if you have a pass, you can renew it from this screen. As well, if we scroll down a little bit further, you'll have your last 2 transactions. The great thing about this is that you can interface with this card. If you tap on it, it'll take you to the card details page, which will provide you with further information about your card. So more information about being able to load funds, your current balance. If you have a pending load, for example, that has not been picked up, you'll be able to see that here. You can also manage or set up an auto load contract from this page. Using the passes function, very similar. You can see the passes that you have on your account. You can load a pass, you can renew a pass, or you can set up or manage an auto renew contract. Transactions, more detail about your transaction history, which includes payments as well as loads, and then info, more detailed info about your card, so your card number and so on and so forth. So what I'll do now is I'll take you through loading value on the card. Remember that this is a very high level concept at this point. We are really testing these concepts. We'll have had 3 sessions with end user or customers on Friday where we're testing all of the concepts. We're doing a lot of A/B testing as well. So when the group, when we're having furious debates and we can't make a decision on what feature or what it should look like, we say test it, and we take it directly to our customers and test. But they're also testing all of the concepts and reviewing them and looking at usability as well. If we want to add value to a card, we're going to go back to Alex's card. I'm going to select $20 and then load selected funds. On this screen, I can change the amount. I can edit it if I need to. If I'm happy with it, I can then select my payment method. I'm going to choose Save Payment Method. You can actually save a credit card or debit card and select it from the screen. If this was an Android phone, you'd see Google Pay here as opposed to Apple Pay, or you can use your credit or debit card directly. So we'll go to Save Payment Method and then select Buy Now. And then what you would do is you would take your card and you would hold it to the back of your phone on an Android phone and wait until you see the check mark. You'd hold it there until you see the check mark, that confirms that it's a successful purchase, and that would have written the amount to your card.
So to be clear, for an Android phone with this app, you don't have to wait the up to 24 hours that you have through the other channels like the web or the call center. So because it's basically talking straight to the card, this is all instantaneous. For those phones that don't have the capability, all the rest of the functionality still works. It's just that you would have that delay of when the funds are loaded to the card.
Right. And then it's the same, and then there's also a call out here to set up an auto load contract. We really want our customers to use it. It's a great feature. Everybody who has it thinks it's great. So then if we wanted to just add a pass, I'll do this quickly. You would select load pass, and then you would select the agency that you want to buy a pass for. Here it's really interesting because it will only show the passes that are available for you to load based on your fare type and the time of the month. And then you would select your payment method, buy now, and then hold the card to the back of your phone and wait for the check mark. And then you also have a call out to set up an auto renew contract as well.
Why wouldn't you just use your phone? Why do you put it onto the card?
We're going to get there.
We're going to get there. That's the next stage.
This is phase one.
This is phase one.
Phase two is coming.
So that's it. So as we mentioned, the team is working really hard to move this as quickly as we can. We're doing a lot of testing. We're going to be doing further testing with internal teams as well as continue with our end user customers. And we're really looking forward to sharing what our final product in the coming months.
So to cut to the chase on the timing, we're targeting the end of the year for this first phase to be available to customers. Keep in mind, we do the testing and everything. If we find blips, we would delay because we wouldn't want anyone to have a bad experience on day one. But that said, the team's been working really hard and we're obviously feeling really excited about it.
And at a future point in time, we'll bring to you the discussion of how the work we're doing here links into the one app approach for Metrolinx. So all other apps fall by the wayside, and this one app approach would feature these features.
Does that include the trip planner and things like that?
Yeah, so TripLinks, as Tom mentioned, the last phase, including trip planning and trip alerts. So TripLinks program still is a great governance and data collection program. And so the intent is that in the third phase, we actually integrate the two, and that becomes all part of one holistic.
Absolutely. One app, one brand, one message, everything.
If you're overseas, you can actually plan it out, actually buy it based on dollar to dollar on where you're going to be going before you can get to the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, Tom, take us to the exciting bit.
Phase two is, as you were saying, basically, why don't I just use my phone directly? So in front of me is a Presto validator. This one is similar to the ones that are on TTC vehicles, but really I could have brought one from Ottawa, could have brought one from Go, because it's going to work on all of the validators. It's basically extending the platform we have. So if I take a plastic Presto card, tap it, the fare gets taken, it's basically the same thing with my phone. So, the app that Karen walked you through is basically just extended to include the ability to kind of say, yes, I want a virtual card, put it on my phone, I'm going to use that from now on. So now I don't need this in my wallet, I just tap my phone. And you'll notice that I didn't open it up, I didn't fiddle with it. It just has to be powered on. I don't need data connectivity to talk to the reader. So it really is, the thing that's in the hand of people as they're getting on the bus anyways. And as I mentioned before, we'll be taking what Karen showed and adding to where you see those cards, the detail about how much time is left on my transfer, right? Which is probably going to be a very important question to a lot of riders. So as we mentioned before,
Sessions will be able to be electronically added.
Absolutely the same. It works just like a Presto card does today.
Speaking on behalf of the seniors community.
Yeah, sure. So this phase is like the tapping the card feature. This one will initially come to Android and will be coming to Apple whenever they provide a framework that enables us to do so. So we're basically bringing as much feature to each customer as we can.
I think it's important to highlight too that, Tom mentioned about the equipment. So this works on all the existing infrastructure, all the devices that are already deployed in the field. We don't have to upgrade all of the infrastructure to enable this to happen. This is partially only made possible by recent advancements on the phone side to enable this type of functionality. So we're happy that that Android has put this type of functionality in place, which doesn't require us to replace all of the expensive equipment. It's more when people have new phones that they're able to use this. So from an investment perspective, getting the customer experience in the existing,
So it's only new Android phones?
No, but that Android has it, and those that have the functionality will be able to use it. So, because other alternatives that are being explored worldwide and that we've certainly considered would require updating of the equipment. And so this is an advantage to being able to improve the customer experience, but not have this wholesale replacement of the equipment.
What percentage of Torontonians, GTHA people have Android phones and what percentage have Apple phones?
It's almost 50-50 in our findings. Just to be clear, it won't work with absolutely every Android phone. It will work more, it'll be more likely to work on a more modern phone than on an older model. Not all of them have NFC.
But the important bit about what Karen demonstrated, so the account management app will work on all smartphones. Right. So we're you know, the first phase.
But getting rid of the card.
Getting rid of the card
on
requires
a certain
exactly.
modernity of phone, and initially being Android, but you would hope very rapidly Apple as well.
Yes.
And what's the time frame?
Phase one is the end of, our target is the end of this year for phase one.
That's what you showed.
Yeah, but what's the time frame for this?
So phase two, I think we need to have a conversation with. The world is changing in the next 6 or 7 weeks or so, and then I think we'll have to go and very carefully take our future roadmap for Presto to the government and discuss with the government what the program for release can be. So it's important for us to do this groundwork and the A/B testing and get to a place where we have a concept that we can work with. We're now busy working through the details of the business case, the payback, the bump in ridership that we expect from people having a greater ease of traveling, and then we'll talk to our shareholder and agree on a timeline for release. Fact is, I am exceptionally keen that we move forward on this. This is why we're demonstrating it, because this is shifting the Presto brand significantly from a car-based solution to something that is more integrated with fare integration solutions, more integrated with ease of travel.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to build on what Phil just said. I think the primary principles that we're working on are regional traveler first. So this whatever we're doing has to work throughout TTC, GO, Brampton, Hamilton, and so on. So no matter what, we're not doing something that's for one transit agency only. And secondly, that we're being mindful of the spending. And so to the point of what are the phases that we can do so that we're both keeping up with evolving customer expectation, because it will ever increasingly have expectations of the new thing coming down. I remember when I started at Presto, Apple Pay didn't exist. Literally. It wasn't that it wasn't big, it didn't exist. And so the things that we're putting on our roadmap today, fundamentally we will have to reevaluate every year to make sure that we're actually, moving with the trends, not always wanting to be at the forefront, but certainly wanting to meet the expectations so that we are actually increasing travel, because the intent is that we're making travel easier, not just that we're doing what's cool. And so it's that balance of moving quickly, but being mindful that we're...
Howard and then Ann.
Just one. So in terms of the roadmap, so I feel the next roadmap, number 2, and looking at what you've done, obviously it's implementation of blockchain technology to a certain extent. So at what point in your roadmap are you also thinking about then the virtual currency aspect of it going forward?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've had folks talking about blockchain on a regular basis. I think it's something that we have to think clearly if there's value. We have a very secure system right now that works really well. At the relative point where we're getting added value from changing some of these things in the way we move currency around in the Presto system, that's one side. And then the other side is being open to other currencies entirely.
Right. I'm thinking about the currency point of view, because you're...
I think that'd be something we would need to discuss with our transit agency partners, because after all, this is their fares that we're collecting and moving back. And so this would be more a discussion that would happen at both here, but also at our common governance table.
And I think that as much the same way that Apple Pay came to all of the merchant community at the same time, if the phone companies were to start accepting a Bitcoin currency, that would probably come to us in the same way. So it'd be a framework that comes to us from the phone companies.
No, I understand. I appreciate it. So in terms of the current platform you have, then would it be a significant shift from the current platform that you're using to be able to accommodate that? Or would it just be a natural progression because you're into a virtual currency environment already, a virtual payment environment already?
Yeah, if the frameworks exist, then I imagine they would have been built in a way that makes it nominal work for us to add that. In the same way that, if Visa comes out with a new card, it sort of works with our system anyways. The phone companies sort of abstract us from that process by doing things like Apple Pay.
but you've thought about it anyways, that's right.
I think these are the types of things that we would need to
further,
keep.
because
Yeah, we'd have to watch.
we're way behind. We got multiple speakers. You take a note of the issue as something to have on your long list of things, but not anywhere near the top of it, given the sequencing that we're talking about. I've got Ann, then Brian, then Mary Ann.
Do you foresee doing away with the Presto machines that have been so controversial? And if so, at what time? Like
Which machines?
Reloads.
The Presto reloads that have, there's been a lot of controversy about the Presto reloads. Not every once in a while you see a news story. So if you were just guessing, do you think like in 2 years those Presto machines will still be around?
They will still be around. So a large proportion of our customers will always use a card.
Okay.
And we'll need them. On the issue of performance of those machines, yes, we're working on it to improve the performance. But we predict for a long time, just like there are always going to be, or it's very hard to not have cash-paying customers on transit vehicles. We expect that there's a certain proportion of our transit riders who will want to have a plastic card.
Okay, great.
Brian?
Annalise has already picked up on one thing I wanted to get on the table is for those of us who don't use phones, we can still use a card going forward. With respect to cards, Tom, you alluded to if Visa came out with a new product or whatever, could you ever conceive if for those who use cards, they could dispense with or have only one card in their possession, a Visa card that would be read for Presto as well?
So the nice thing about this technology is it works with the platform we have. To get to open payments and stuff, it will require investments in new readers.
Oh, so that will be at our end, not...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, it has been and will continue to be on our roadmap to have credit card payments in the system. And we're going to, once assuming that we move ahead with mobile, in particular paying with your phone directly, I think we would want to see what larger amount of the customer population would benefit from yet another technology option, because we may be duplicating efforts. So we'll have to see.
Thank you.
And then Mary Ann, you have the last word.
Okay, just I would say in the UK, they have credit cards, so it's much easier. You don't have to carry so many cards, and I can use my Canadian card and pay. I just want to link product management to product design, look and feel. And so I very much like what you've put on the screen. And I'm, offended by the green box, because the whole idea of Metrolinx is that it is fair integration and that it's linking to other systems, whether it's the York region or it's the red TTC or it's the Go green. So we've just installed all of those machines, and I just have to reflect back, like we need to always be thinking ahead. So this is, we've just put these in, so we're going to see these for quite a while, unless the functionality is some tremendous upgrade. But it's, I don't know, Rahul, you had a similar kind of observation, right?
We sort of had a joint question, which is we've got the black readers up there and the green ones here. Are you going to be swapping them all over to the black ones at some point?
So it's a separate exercise based on the brand work that had been done, up to a year ago. There was a plan to, when equipment is being refreshed, to align it to the new brand standard. Obviously, with our partners owning the majority of the infrastructure, so outside in the 905 in Ottawa, that would have to be done so that it's fiscally responsible. So we're not swapping just for the look and feel, but it's when the equipment's being updated. That said, there are, in some cases, plans to wrap equipment where it's confusing, and so that if it's a customer impact, that it's holding it back. And likewise, there's a bit of marketing budget to ensure kind of some of this gets updated faster if there are no plans for equipment infrastructure changes in kind of the next immediate
You weren't
future.
around at that time, but this issue did come up, when the...
I thought of it when I heard the news myself. Yep.
Okay, so this looks great. Look forward to
Wonderful.
Being coordinated and under the radar color-wise and available to everybody to push into their color-coded systems.
Phil, any concluding comments?
Just that for us, this is a great step forward in terms of positioning Presto and positioning mobile technology as part of an integrated solution with a single app. So we will continue with the feasibility work around this, and we'll come back to the board with a more detailed discussion in a strategy session about what our digital strategy looks like across apps as well as web-based platforms.
And are our transit partners keen on this?
They are.
Yeah, so we have, we brought this, our overall roadmap, which includes mobile, to the transit agency partners over a month ago, and they were supportive of the direction to move quicker with mobile. I think the fact that this it will be able to be used by customers throughout all 11 transit agencies, as opposed to something that would have to be rolled out sequentially, is a huge benefit. We want to include them in the testing and kind of verification, both the look and feel, but also the functionality of each phase to make sure that they're on board, because obviously it's their fare products that we sell. Yeah, we've had support, and we want to continue to work with them.
More particularly, given the relative magnitude of it, is TTC and the City of Toronto on side with this?
TTC is included in that.
But are they as keen as you're describing the group?
I think they're very enthusiastic, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
just want to make sure. Thank you very much, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your presentation, really good.
Very good. Thank you.
Really good. That brings us to fare integration. Leslie?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm going to turn it mostly over to Martin, but we are here to report great progress since the board identified and gave advice to the government around the key initiatives to advance fare integration across the region, which was not just slightly over 6 months ago. And so we're happy to talk about some big steps in achieving fare integration. Over to you, Martin.
Okay, as Leslie said, we have made significant progress from when we brought forward an approach and you endorsed back in September of 2017. And at that time, we really changed the focus to first addressing a number of barriers in the system, but also keeping in mind we wanted to work towards a longer fare structure and strategy. So I'm going to quickly just highlight some of the things that we are doing on the barriers. You have the report, but the first one is the discount on double fares between TTC and GO and Up. And that one was launched in January. We brought that to you in the fall when the province had announced some funding. That has gone very well. We have rolled that out. Basically, customers pay the equivalent of $1.50 when they use their PRESTO card to transfer between GO and TTC and vice versa. We have seen a significant increase in the number of transfers that are happening. If we compare the first 3 months of this year to the first 3 months of 2017. However, there's a lot of things happening at the same time, which makes it confusing to get a good handle on it because of the PRESTO adoption rate that's increasing significantly on the TTC system. And so our feeling is that we are in line with our projections, and that as we track it over the next year, we'll have a better understanding of that. So that's been very successful, and I think you've probably seen some of the marketing campaign that's out there, and the awareness, I think, is continuing to increase. The discounts in the double fare between 905 and TTC, there was an announcement in the March 28th announcement of the 2018 budget that hasn't received royal assent yet, but it's progressing. That included some transitional funding to help the agencies, both the 905 and the TTC agencies, introduce a discount similar to what I just referred to on the GO TTC. It is money that's coming from the carbon allowance proceeds from the Ontario Cap and Trade program. And because it's only transitional funding, obviously there has to be agreement amongst all the parties. That work has not yet started because we're waiting for the province to do the final approvals. It will take probably some time, so we're looking at probably into 2019, but we will be working with them and supporting them, and that will particularly be important for PRESTO to be a big part of that. The exciting one, I think, is the adjustments to the GO fare structure. They were announced again in the 2018 Ontario budget. As I said, it's not yet received approval. However, we're doing a lot of work on this. This would lower our fares for short distance trips, and specifically, and you may want to refer to the map that's in the appendix, but all of the if on the rail system, it does apply to the bus system too, but on the rail system, if you took all the GO stations within the City of Toronto, anyone traveling between them will be basically have, if they use their PRESTO card for an adult, $3 fare. It'll also apply if you're buying single fare tickets, and that would be $3.35, and the concessions would also apply. So that is a tremendous opportunity to increase our penetration and ridership within the City of Toronto, but also across the whole GO network. We are reducing the cost of short distance travel. So for approximately a 10-kilometer distance, we will be introducing the same $3 fare and on PRESTO. And so that overall will significantly affect a lot of our customers. Our estimate that is, not everybody uses our system every day, but our estimate is around 75,000 of our customers would see some type of a decrease. Because when we do this within the City of Toronto, we also we refer to it as feathering, but we will be affecting some of the stations just outside of the City of Toronto and adjusting their fares too. Overall, there was $70 million in the new budget to basically fund this over 3 years, and actually $90 million to fund this over 3 years. And as I said, we are working very closely with all the teams across Metrolinx to get ready for this. There is work that has to be done through our fare systems and through PRESTO, and we are working on that, and our hope is that we will bring it back in the fall, and our hope is that we would look towards an early 2019 implementation.
Can I just add one thing, Martin? Just on the lowering of the GO base fare, not only the benefits to existing customers, we anticipate an increase in ridership of 10 to 15%, which makes this a really sound investment for us, and we anticipate it will continue to grow.
And just to kind of pick up on that point too, in the City of Toronto particularly, I think we've all heard about the issues on the subway network, particularly the north-south subway network. We've been working very closely with TTC. They are very hopeful that there will be some pressure taken off the subway with this. And so we're working closely to understand where we expect new riders to come and make sure that we have the right service to be able to provide that. Although I would say that our rail network, the all-stops trains, most of them have spare capacity on it. So it's a real win, and we're working very closely with TTC. But we'll also be working with the 905 agencies because there will be some impact, and we need to understand it and make sure we work with them on it. So finally, yes, Ann?
I'll let you do finally first.
Okay.
Fair policy.
Fair policy. I want you to know that this, I think, is another important part of the seamless travel. We've started an exercise. We've done work in the past and made some progress. But this time we're taking a little different approach. We are working with all the agencies as well as all the units within Metrolinx, including PRESTO, to really look at it almost from a business case point of view. Where can we get benefit? There are some things that obviously are very important to make things more seamless for the customer. And so our hope is that by the fall we will have sort of an approach of how to move forward with that.
So Mr. Ford has announced that if he is elected, he plans to cancel the carbon plan, in which case there'll be no money to subsidize the fares. I think everybody here is hugely keen on your whole plan. Everybody thinks it's great. We've discussed this many times, so I think fare integration is just fantastic. I guess my question would be, have you, in discussion with everybody, looked at consequences of, do you need a plan B? Also, one of the earlier things, when we looked at the first set of numbers, the province committed a certain amount to subsidize. Do you remember, Leslie, we weren't sure if that was going to be enough to cover the full cost. That was when it was just between GO Transit and TTC. but now that so I guess my question is about the financing. And two what ifs. If the subsidies are reduced or not enough, are we going to be, because we signed a contract, are we going to, what are the impact on us? And should you be thinking about a what if in case of the election?
So maybe the way I would answer this question, we've done a lot of research, analytics to identify these are the right things that we need to do for fair integration in the region. The question about how the startup fundings or the transition pieces get funded becomes a bit more political, so I'm not sure I want to sort of weigh in on that partly, but we will continue to pursue these as the right avenues because we know these are going to be the right avenues. And whether it comes from one source or the other, I think we have demonstrated that the benefits that come out of this are to the advantage of the whole region. And so I'm sort of not answering your question directly, but I
think what's important to cover here
Yeah.
is the magical number,
Yes.
which is in the business case, and this was not a business case paper, but the magical number for the benefit cost ratio is between 10 and 12.
Yeah.
So what that means is that a 30 million a year investment in fair integration has a 300 to 360 million economic benefit for the region. And so when it gets to the funding choice, whatever happens with who in the next 6 weeks, we will have exactly the same conversation, and there's a choice to be made, and it's as easy as that. And there's an unambiguous benefit cost ratio of 10 to 12. And in transit projects, 2 to 2.5 is considered fantastic. So 10 to 12 is really powerful, and that's just a choice to be made. And that business case is well worked. There's extra ridership that's involved. There's benefits for different levels of our socioeconomic groupings, and it's just a fantastic benefit for the communities. And so the choices will be made.
But at this point in the cycle, I don't think it's right for an independent agency like us to talk about political impacts of different choices of government. I just don't think it's a topic that's appropriate for us as a board to discuss. Individuals, so of course, will all have their own preferences, but I think it's important that we not. And so I think, Leslie, your answer was the right answer, which is what we'll do is provide the advice based on the analysis you've done, and it's the right policy directions. We've had these directions in mind for half a dozen years. We've made a lot of progress. We want to keep making progress, but how it's financed, who supports it, those are not, I think, questions for us today. Upcar.
Leslie, maybe an unfair question, but the fair integration approach will have an impact on ridership patterns. What we noticed out with Up Express and the fare reduction there, we had more commuter traffic at certain times of the day. Phil has outlined, and when we talk about the BCA, we talk about upstream and downstream impacts, more dwell times because more passengers getting on at stations closer to the city versus outside. Will this mean looking at our express and local trains to readjust that to make sure that we reflect we consider the redistributive impacts of those dwell times in a meaningful way? I don't know if I said that question.
I'll start and I'll ask Martin to add, but the entire GO expansion program to Express Rail is predicated on fare integration. So we have built into what we are designing in terms of our service plan, including the increases to service over the coming years leading up to the Express Rail program being in service. So we will we always continuously, at every board change, recalibrate our service, whether bus or rail, to where the demand is moving and shifting. But because we have always made an assumption that fare integration is a fundamental, important aspect to the success of the program, it's inherently built in to how we're thinking about it. And then we'll calibrate as we progress on all these different stages.
I guess the difference being this is more significant more quickly than we might have anticipated in the RER.
I'm not sure.
I think we've talked a lot with our service planning people, and they feel comfortable. It may affect, to be honest, some of our buses a little bit more, but we have some flexibility. And so I think people are very excited about this. This opens up a lot of opportunities, and I think it allows us to work very closely with our partners. As I say, that TTC are having issues, and this is an opportunity for us to work closely with them, and I think they're very excited about it too.
I think the other thing I would add, just as Martin mentioned, it's short trips. which is actually a latent market for us, using capacity that we're not using now. So unlike peak period, this is a new market. So I think that we can take advantage of that.
And by the way, I wasn't trying to imply a negative.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
it's a
no.
fantastic initiative that's long overdue, just to be clear.
Yeah, I was going to say I took too long myself.
Does anybody else have anything they wish to say other than congratulations to the team for getting this? This has been very persistent policy making, principle, theoretical, then more applied, then more pragmatic, and then asking for
Results,
action. And
yes.
you've really, it's taken a long time to get to ground with it, but it's landed in a very positive place, Leslie. And I know you and your team, Martin, you guys should feel really good about it.
We don't give up.
No, it's really, we're not home yet, but we've made a heck of a lot of progress. So thank you. Rahul.
So fare integration, what's happening on the service integration side? Can you give us a little bit of a flavor of what that could start to look like?
So the service integration work continues all the time on a day-to-day basis with our local municipalities. We are beginning to sort of round out with the local operators the getting ready for the RER and the levels of service that are going to be coming in the next several years, including the increases that we're anticipating between now and 2025. So there's our normal working relationships with the operators, and that we're refining that. We have discussed the idea of the Intergovernmental Forum with this table to address at a higher level how we can sort of more aggressively move to higher levels of integration on simple things, buses arriving at a good time to line up with train meets and so forth. So I think that's progressing well. I think we hope to have a bit more of a push now that we know more clearly what's coming forward with the Go Expansion program.
Do you want to comment a little bit on the agile cross-functional team we're putting together?
Yes. So we are doing a little bit, I was going to call it a SWAT team, but it's probably not a good term, a cross-organizational, cross-functional team to really not only think about local service integration, but other modes of integration, because the integration of our local buses and our services, it has implications also for roads, road capacity, priority signaling, which goes outside just only timetable coordination, or connectivity between active transportation integration and pedestrian and parking and all those pieces. So we have identified a cross-organizational team to really focus very much on that in the short term and getting us in a high state of preparedness for what is coming in the not too distant future.
So just to dwell on this a little bit, in our very specific conversation this morning that Rose commented on as well, as about how to organizationally respond to these things differently. We can keep on pushing from the top in terms of integration, intergovernmental forums and all of that. That's sort of top-down strategy. But coming in from the side now, we've got an agile team of directors in the organization that will drive decisions, explore what works or doesn't work. So it's an ad hoc team that will figure out, shake issues and old policies and old procedures around and look at what can we do to increase our growth rate of footfall from the current around 3.3% to 5%. So this is the first steps in that organizational dynamic that we discussed this morning.
That's within Metrolinx.
Within Metrolinx,
Yes.
yes. And it's led by Antoine Believ, and so very excited about that.
Any further comments, questions? Thank you very much, Leslie and Martin. Good work. To all of you who joined us today, thank you very much for coming. We'll see you again, I think it's June 25th or thereabouts. Is that right, Mary? June 25th?
Let me just check.
Oh,
It's
well.
around, you're right, it's thereabouts.
Yeah.
It's always the last
Yeah.
few days of June.
I don't want to give a bum steer.
June 26th.
June 26th.
And 27th for the board meeting.
Oh, 27th. Committees on 26th and board on 27th. Thank you very much. Oh, really? Because they have no interest?
No issues.